Evangelical Christians that the Bible never created the one man, one woman doctrine or prohibited polygamy. I will be showing you some of those arguments here tonight. To do that, we will be discussing first the grace law hypocrisy, polygamous in the Bible, the meaning of adultery in one flesh, as well as the prohibitions of leaders that were listed in the Bible. Under the Old Testament, that polygamy was never banned, and not only so, it was regulated. You see, for example, in Exodus 21:10, it actually says, if you take another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. That's right there in the law under the legalism. That's a regulation of polygamy. In Deuteronomy 21:15, it starts with, if a man have two wives, and goes on to regulate dealing with the children. So clearly we see under the law, that polygamy was not only not disallowed, but it was actually regulated. And so to suggest to go into the New Testament, which is no longer under the legalism of the law, it therefore seeks to make the marriage doctrine more legalistic in the time of grace than it ever was under the time of being under the law. A clear hypocrisy, the grace law hypocrisy. There were numerous polygamists in the Bible. Numerous. Moses himself, who wrote the Adam and Eve story, who wrote the one flesh verse of Genesis 2:24, who wrote thou shalt not commit adultery of Exodus 20 verse 14, the seventh commandment, and wrote the polygamy regulating verses. Moses himself had 2 wives. Abraham had 3 wives. The 12 tribes of Israel were born of Israel's 4 wives. David had numerous wives. He had 8 known named wives. In fact, when David was being reproved for taking another man's wife, God sent a prophet to him, according to 2 Samuel 12:8, and get this, this is what God said in 2 Samuel 12:8 to David. I gave you all your wives. And if you had wanted more, I'd have given you more. That's in 2 Samuel 12:8. It's right there. God himself taking responsibility for giving David his wives. Jesus Christ describing himself in Matthew 25 in a parable, describing himself as a polygamous bridegroom coming to marry 5 virgins. And God himself through the prophet Jeremiah chapter 3 and the prophet Ezekiel chapter 23 also describes himself in polygamous terms. Clearly the Bible never created the anti-polygamy doctrine. This now brings us to the adultery and one flesh. Adultery is not given to us in English. Thou shalt not commit adultery. It was written to us in Hebrew. And the Hebrew word for adultery in the 7th commandment is na'af. And the word na'af means woman who breaks wedlock. Now, without getting into the inegalitarianism that some of us may have about this, we're looking at it purely from an intellectual standpoint. This is what the word means. The word means woman who breaks wedlock. So, if a man marries a woman who is not married to another man, and marries another woman who's not married to another man, no woman has broken her wedlock. Therefore, no adultery has occurred. That's how a man in the Bible could marry more than one woman. It was not adultery. Even Moses himself, who wrote, thou shalt not commit adultery, had 2 wives. And he's also the one who wrote Genesis 2:24, that the 2 shall be one flesh. So what we've seen is that truly the understanding of adultery and the one flesh passage clearly do not support the one man, one woman or anti-polygamy viewpoint. It's not in the Bible. And that brings us now to the leadership. In Deuteronomy 17, it says that a king shall not multiply wives unto himself, nor horses. Now that doesn't create an exclusion of only one. That just says shall not multiply, shall not hoard. Because if he can't multiply have more than one wife, then that means he can't have more than one wife, more than one horse. That doesn't make sense. And not only that, it just simply was that it's not an exclusion to only one. That also then we see that was only to kings and not to everybody. And then also you see in the New Testament where it refers to the husband of one wife. The 3 verses only, which is in 1 Timothy 3:2, 3:12, and Titus 1:6. And those are only instructions for bishops, elders, and deacons shall be the husband of one wife. It doesn't say it for everybody else. It says only for bishops, elders, and deacons. And not only so, again, go back using Strong's Gospel Concordance of the Bible, go back to the Greek word, and the Greek word for one and one wife is mia. And the word mia translates to first. As in, on the first day of the week when the women found the open tomb after the resurrection. The first day of the week. The word mia translates to first, that he should be the husband of first wife. Suddenly we realize this is not a limitation of one wife, this is a limitation against divorce. And clearly this helps us understand this never created a prohibition for polygamy. It only created a restriction, if anything, for for bishops, elders, and deacons. Clearly, the Bible never created the invented one-man, one-woman doctrine. And that is what I have done, and what has catapulted me to the national stage and all the major media interviews and so forth, is the bringing of these arguments to persuade Christians, my fellow Christians, that the Bible never created the one-man, one-woman doctrine. The emperor is wearing no clothes.